They are these night runners, the witches. When they come at night, you get so scared. Actually, you think there's a snake under your bed. You become so scared. And then at the same time, you know,
Witchcraft, yeah. An inside story for all those who do not believe in the rich African heritage. What's witchcraft here? What comes into your mind when you hear of witchcraft here? In this series, I'll inform you more about witchcraft in the African traditional setting, how people viewed witchcraft and how it was done. I'll fully explore what and which at what time was associated with witchcraft here, how Africans used witchcraft to survive problems and run their day-to-day activities. I'll also not forget the role of traditional healers in relation to witchcraft here. We will deeply look into the advent of colonialism, colonial administration, and how introduction of religion by the white man dealt a blow to the art of witchcraft which had survived thousands and thousands of years. Today, witchcraft is deemed as dark. Africans are burning their own. We see witch suspects burnt to ashes on the internet today. Today in this series, in its very first episode, we shall look into the laws enacted by the harsh colonial masters to ensure that this precious African practice dies procedurally, day by day, month by month, year by year, and eventually its complete eradication from the face of Africa. Just 5 years after Kenya was declared as a British protectorate in 1920, the white man moved swiftly to enact a law on witchcraft, an act that did not ban witchcraft but rather had attempts to regulate it, in that it offered penalties for people who tried to use charms or witch medicine to cause fear, annoyance or injury to the other in mind, person or property. According to the great African historians, the Europeans attributed their failure to conquer African first to the precious traditional practice that offered practical solutions to Africans in their day-to-day encounters. According to Witchcraft Act of 12 November 1925, it makes it an offense for chiefs to allow witchcraft in their area. The law also gave the district commissioners power to order witch doctors to live in specific areas away from the rest of the population. Then the law gave the provincial commissioners the power to overrule his juniors at any level. With all these provisions, the law became lovable because it barely described who a witch doctor was and who wasn't. This law made calling another a witch punishable offense unless one did so to a police officer or a government administrator. Immediately 1 year after Kenya got independence in 1963, the 1925 laws enacted about witchcraft were amended slightly to ensure that Africans in Kenya do not suffocate by dissociating themselves from their own culture, which was their identity. The amended law did not touch or talk about witchcrafts and wizards, but talked about those with intentions to starve a sacred culture on laws that had no basis. For example, the amended laws talked about those who pretended to exercise witchcraft and assured them of being guilty and were to be liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 5 years.
They are these night runners, the witches. When they come at night, you get so scared. Actually, you think there's a snake under your bed. You become so scared. And then at the same time, you know, they come with a stick and just run it over the roof to make it matter worse. Okay, if you move or if you shout, it will be coming every day. So a friend of mine told me, never be scared. Don't move. Just sleep as if there's nobody in the house. Then they will get tired and not come back. But before that, I used to make noise or say something that abuse them, you're disturbing me. But now they keep on coming. I don't know whether she or a woman, a man, went round removing all my mesh wire on the ventilation, places. So I decided to follow my friend's advice, not to move, not to pretend that the house has nobody. Then they got kind of tired. But before that, I said, Okay, I have a coconut plant outside, and I've been away for so long, working out in town.
Those who pretended to be witch doctors to supply advice or article for witchcraft with intent to injure were liable for an offense punishable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 10 years. Also, those who pretended to use witch medicine with intent to injure were also liable to a prison term not exceeding 10 years. Any person who was found with charms was to be liable of an offense punishable by a prison term not exceeding 1 year or a fine not exceeding 1,000 Kenyan shillings or both, and the charm shall be forfeited and destroyed. The law also stated that any person who accuses or threatens to accuse any person with being a witch or with practicing witchcraft shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine not exceeding 500 Kenyan shillings or to an imprisonment term not exceeding 5 years or both. In this law, it is provided that it shall not apply to any person who makes an accusation to a district commissioner, a police, a chief, or any other person in authority. Any person who attempts to discover crime by witchcraft shall be guilty of an offense and liable to a fine not exceeding 500 shillings or to an imprisonment term not exceeding 5 years. Any chief directly or indirectly permits, promotes, encourages or facilitates the practice of witchcraft or the doing of an act contrary to the provisions of this act, or who knowingly of the pretended practice of witchcraft by any person does not forthwith report to the district commissioner shall be guilty of an offense that is liable to a fine not exceeding 500 Kenyan shillings or an imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years. This law has been left intact since its last amendment in 1964, though the Kenya Law Reform Commission has a statutory and ongoing role of reviewing all the laws of Kenya to ensure that it is modernized, relevant, and harmonized with the Constitution of Kenya. Kenya Law Reform Commission has a mandate of preparing new legislation to give effect to the Constitution. In the coming episodes, we shall be looking into the history of witchcraft in Africa at large, not forgetting to set an eye on the gains and beats of witchcraft in controversial countries like Tanzania and South Africa. We shall also look on how these governments have been able to regulate and promote this precious African practice in equal measures. This great legal and historical tale has been prepared and brought to you by Machukir.